And I've done a pretty good job of not launching into a full-fledged rant. And it's probably coming at some point because all day I've known we're filming this episode and I've just been like stewing in these fucking scumbags. So I might go off at some point, and at which point, if the show abruptly ends, it's because Mike pushed the stop recording button.
I don't have the power to do that.
I'm Justin Lesko, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and former pro MMA fighter.
And I'm Mike Callahan, a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and a law enforcement officer. So normally on this show, you'll see us having fun, making jokes, occasionally making fun of each other. We keep it light, easy going. This episode's going to be a little different.
Yeah, we can't ignore the biggest story in the jiu-jitsu world right now, the allegations against fight sports.
So at best, we're looking at a scenario where Roberto Cyborg, Abreu, and Vagner Rocha knew about sexual assault allegations and did nothing to stop it. And at worst, we're looking at a scenario where these two guys took steps to actually cover it up.
We are probably going to say the word allegedly a lot tonight so that we don't get sued. And this also seems like an episode where we shouldn't do a funny segue to tell you about Epic Roll, but just know your game is missing out if you're not rocking gear from Epic Roll.
Eliminating segues is probably a good idea because you're not very good at them. So
I guess we're still going to make fun of each other a little bit.
Gis, shirts, shorts, rash guards, any type of clothing related to jiu-jitsu, any type of apparel you guys need, they got you covered. So go check them out.
And when you use the coupon code podcast15 at epicrollbjj.com, you're going to get a sweet discount.
So give them a follow on the gram as well at epicrollbjj. And like Justin said, if you go to their website, epicrollbjj.com, and you use the coupon code podcast15, you'll get 15% off of all your orders.
We've got some more scumbags in jiu-jitsu to tell you about. Allegedly. Welcome to That Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.
Earlier this week, Mo Jassim, who is the head organizer for ADCC, I guess it would be, he dropped a bomb.
Right. So Mo puts out on Instagram that the father of a female student at Fight Sports Naples, which is under the whole Fight Sports umbrella, obviously, Cyborg's school, when she was 10, this instructor named Marcel, are we saying Gonclaves?
I don't even know how to say his name, but who gives a fuck?
We don't care. This is the one time I don't care if I'm saying the name wrong. At me in the comments. I don't fucking care if I'm saying this guy's name right. Gonclaves, whatever. Fucking Marcel the defendant, allegedly, starts grooming the student.
He's literally a defendant in an open criminal case, so we're okay. The defendant.
I'm very glad I have an authority here who can speak to the law of things. On this girl's, a couple days after her 16th birthday, she confides in a friend that her and Marcel had sexual relations, which is rape. She's 16. Marcel was in his 20s, I think. He was not a teenager. And apparently this girl was, do I have to say alleged victim or can I just say victim?
Yeah, so she would be the alleged victim. Yeah.
Like I said, it was a few days after she turned 16 that she told the friend, and then the police arrested Marcel 2 to 3 weeks later. Allegedly, Cyborg and Vagner Rocha, who we'll get to Vagner in a minute, he's loosely affiliated with Fight Sports. He's been flying their flag in competition for years. Allegedly, they knew all about this and then covered it up, just let it happen. And as bad as all that stuff is that Mo released, we have a lot more that's unfolded since then, but that's the, we'll call, inciting incident that set this all off.
So this guy is born in 1986 and he's arrested in 2018. So at the time of his arrest, he was 31 or 32. So a couple things. This is the alleged crime here is statutory rape, and the age, we're not going to dive too deep into this, but state by state there's different laws regarding this. in Florida, if somebody is 16 or 17 and the circumstances that are alleged to have happened here happen, then it's statutory rape because they're under 18. In other states, the ages of consent are below 18, but in this case, it is. It is against the law. So the worst part, if we're going to talk about it, is the fact that this 16-year-old had trained at Fight Sports since she was 10. There's the whole grooming element to it, and we're not going to get into grooming, but if you guys aren't familiar with the term, as it pertains to sexual assault and sexual predators, it is a terrifying concept.
Right.
Not that the act itself isn't, not the alleged act itself isn't egregious, but when the grooming element comes into it, it makes it even more egregious. So,
yeah, unlike Cyborg, I think all aspects of what happened here are bad because he certainly does not, and we'll get into that as well. But just try to follow like chronologically the events of what had happened. So Keith Rummel was at the time the owner of Fight Sports Naples. So he was Marcel's employer. Marcel was an instructor at that school, right? So Keith put out a statement after, Mo released this information with, by the way, I think it should be noted that Mo said in his statement, the girl's father was like all for releasing this information. Mo released this information with the consent of the victim and her father. So it's not like Mo's just like airing somebody else's laundry out that maybe they didn't want to have publicly discussed. So Mo is in the right here. Mo's in the right. So Keith Rummel puts out this statement. Keith Rummel, the owner of Fight Sports Naples at the time that this alleged event happened. And Keith says, after Marcel was arrested and I guess released on bail or whatever, I don't know how it fucking works, Marcel, Keith, and Cyborg, they go to talk sort of about like the future of the school, what they're going to do, because obviously this is, news. Marcel got arrested at the school. And according to Keith, was pretty much admitting that he did it when he was getting arrested, saying, I don't know what's wrong with me, I don't know what's wrong with me, as he's in handcuffs being led out of the school. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So what Keith Rummel essentially said was he didn't think that the actions of one person should essentially destroy this team at the beginning. Right. So if they cut ties with Marcel and they went their separate ways and they took the stance that what had been alleged had actually occurred, that there's zero tolerance for it and that they could move on and continue as Fight Sports. So that was his thinking. And here's the other thing. I'm sure that anyone who's listening to this podcast is familiar with Cyborg and probably Fight Sports. It is an impressive gym. It's an impressive team. They have a lot of big names there. The other day, Cyborg said that he thinks that he has approximately 150 black belts. Not just there, but just all over. Like, it is an impressive location. And the team itself is just, it's world renowned. And so for Keith Rummel to think that, they could survive this if they did the right thing, like, that's not unreasonable.
I've never trained at Fight Sports Naples. I don't know Keith Rummel. I don't know fucking Marcel. I don't know any of them, so I don't know what their relationship was like. Based on the information we have, I can't say that Keith was at fault or wasn't at fault or was complicit or knew or didn't know about any of these events.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
So that's a good way. That's a good way to put it, because to say like that they're not at fault, like there's some serious civil liability that's in play there. You know?
Keith says Marcel at the meeting randomly says that he wants to be paid $35,000 by Keith, I guess as a severance of some kind. And Keith told him to pound sand and he wouldn't pay him $2. Like, get out of here. So they leave the meeting, and then a few weeks later, Keith goes to Fight Sports headquarters and has a one-on-one meeting with Cyborg. And Cyborg says, oh, what do you think about that $35K from Marcel? And Keith responds again, not giving him $1. Like, fuck that guy. Get him out of here. Cyborg, after this meeting, later texts Keith that because he won't give the $35K to Marcel, Keith can no longer be part of their team, and basically cuts Keith off, the one who didn't allegedly commit statutory rape. So Keith is just out of fight sports. So that reads to me, Cyborg is more concerned with getting $35K for allegedly a raper as opposed to, doing the right thing.
So, and just so we're being completely transparent with what we know, Cyborg has responded to those allegations, and he has said that the reason that he asked for $35,000 was not necessarily for Marcel, but it was because Marcel was part owner in the Fight Sports Naples location. So based on what he perceived his equity in that gym to be, he wanted Marcel to be compensated $35,000. And he wasn't necessarily motivated to support Marcel, but to support Marcel's wife and son, who is also Cyborg's godson.
Which is a very important detail to not miss out, that
right.
Marcel isn't just a random dude who teaches classes at Fight Sports Naples. Like, he's close enough to Cyborg that his kid, Cyborg is that kid's godfather. Like, that's kind of a close relationship. And also the part about Marcel being part owner, right. Keith is refuting that Marcel had no ownership. He's just an employee.
He had absolutely no stock. He never contributed to the Fight Sports Naples location other than teaching. The day that he came in and he started teaching, he was compensated. But in terms of contributions made to that location, financially, he never made any type of financial contributions to anything regarding Fight Sports Naples. And that's coming from Keith Rummel. That's not coming from Cyborg. It's not coming from Marcel. Keith Rummel is strongly denying those claims by Cyborg, and he's saying that Marcel, the reason that he wasn't paid for equity in the gym is because he didn't have equity in the gym.
In this situation between Marcel, Cyborg, and Keith, I think that I'm most inclined to believe Keith based on the evidence that's in front of me at the time of this recording. And Cyborg and Marcel had both said that they wanted the $35K because Marcel's family shouldn't suffer. Well, I'm sorry. Maybe let's focus on the victim and her family first and doing the right thing by them if you're Cyborg and Keith, as opposed to the fucking perpetrator, allegedly.
Alleged perpetrators. So I'm not, and again, Cyborg said, Marcel's son and wife shouldn't suffer, and I agree. This isn't an eye for an eye. This isn't let's be vindictive and spiteful and seek vengeance against his family. But like you said, they're not the priority here. The priority here should be the victim, and not necessarily compensation and everything, but the victim should be that her well-being, specifically her mental well-being, for going through something that she did like this allegedly, should be the top priority. This would be horrible enough if we just stopped the show here, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately,
right,
these dumb motherfuckers just keep. So this is what's happening in this episode right now.
This would be horrible enough.
We're about 15, 20 minutes into this episode, and I've done a pretty good job of not launching into a full-fledged rant. And it's probably coming at some point because all day I've known we're filming this episode and I've just been stewing in these fucking scumbags. So I might go off at some point, and at which point, if the show abruptly ends, it's because Mike pushed the stop recording button.
I don't have the power to do that.
These guys, the shit just keeps coming out. So Cyborg responds to someone's critical comment on Instagram by saying, quote, and I'm going to read this as written, so that's why it sounds like terrible English. He mistaken as anyone can commit a mistake in life. I don't support what he did, but also I don't condemn him. If you don't condemn a rapist, then you are no better than one. And it's just my less than humble opinion. If you fail to condemn a rapist, it makes you just as bad as one. And let's not gloss over what happened here by calling it a mistake. Let's not pretend that this was a mistake, he shouldn't have been speeding and he was speeding, he made a mistake. That's not what this is. Don't try to diminish what happened by calling it a fucking mistake. Like, what is wrong with you?
Can I go now?
You can go. This mini rant is over. You can go.
I can't believe that Cyborg would be so stupid, and I think that part of it is kind of literally lost in translation. But in the event that he really is saying about like not condemning an alleged rapist who groomed a child since they were 10 years old, that's just as bad of as terrible of a human being as you can get. It gets worse.
All right, I'll keep going. So you might think that if you were Cyborg, and let's not forget, Vagner Rocha is still part of this team, and he's still one of the biggest names in Jiu Jitsu, so you would assume that he knows that this is happening. Cyborg obviously knows that it's happening because he's trying to broker $35,000 payoffs for this dude. You would think that if you're one of those guys, you'd be like, all right, this guy can't be in our gym anymore, right? Get this guy out of here. This guy was taken out of one of our affiliates in handcuffs because of this crime that everyone knows that he committed, allegedly. Well, there's still pictures of Marcel at Fight Sports as recently as February of this year.
3 years after he was arrested. So the other thing too is there's pictures of them like in social gatherings too.
Right. So his whole thing about not condemning him being lost in translation, it's just you don't care what this guy did. You clearly don't care.
Talking about it kind of makes you even more angry.
Now this information's out, right? So we're going to get some statements from some people, okay? Cyborg's going to release a statement, and my source for this statement was Jiu Jitsu Times, who did a really good article on the whole thing, and they have a lot more information than we'll probably get into tonight, but the Jiu Jitsu Times article is really good. Cyborg says in his statements that he made a new hotline for anyone who is the victim of sexual assault within their affiliate team.
I was hoping that I would get to. Okay.
So I'll tell what happened, then you can give your opinions first.
Yeah.
So if you're a member of their affiliate team and you are sexually assaulted by another member of the affiliate team, there's a hotline that you can call.
Although I appreciate Cyborg's half-assed attempt to get out in front of this, somebody already beat him to the punch because there's already a hotline to call if you're the victim of sexual assault. You know what it is?
Can you give the number just in case anyone doesn't know it?
It's fucking 911, okay? How fucking stupid does this guy have to be? If you are the victim of a sexual assault, do not call a hotline set up by a jiu-jitsu gym who has been not implicated, but has employed alleged sexual assault perpetrators and is now setting up hotlines. No.
I mean, it's very clearly just a ploy that they want to keep this internal. Like, they're afraid that if something like this happened again, which again, more details to come, we're going to get to, that no one will take it outside to the cops and they'll have outside involvement. They can just handle it internally.
Internally, yep.
Which, if you're ever at a place where something bad happens and they tell you, even though this heinous crime was committed and you were the victim, don't call the police, let us handle it. Call the fucking cops, dude. Like,
so I actually think that it's even scummier than that, because they want to limit civil liability. They're thinking in terms of this limiting criminal and civil liability, and civil liability is the most financially impactful. So,
I mean, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that liability as well, but
yeah, it's bad. It's bad either way.
Now coming forward was another Fight Sports blue belt who allegedly at the camp in Brazil, one of the instructors, who she did not name, went to the hotel reception and got a copy of her room key, came into her room while she was sleeping, tried to sexually assault her. She called for reception and, fortunately, the attempted act was interrupted. And instead of being sympathetic to this victim, allegedly, Cyborg yelled at her and said that nothing really happened and she shouldn't report it, and she was ruining the whole camp, and forced her to not report it and to withdraw her claim of an attack. So really just sticking with their MO of let's sweep this all under the rug. Let's call our hotline and not the cops. Let's pay this guy $35,000. Let's just all make it go away so we can pretend it didn't happen. If I misrepresented anything of what he's done so far, right? That's a pretty accurate summation of what happened, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that you said.
Also, Cyborg said that he would like to have a debate with Mo Jassim in public or face-to-face so they could debate this issue. And I'm really not sure what there is to debate.
Yeah, there's nothing to debate. There's the Vagner Rocha aspect of this. This guy has been spotted in Wagner's gym on, I think, 2 separate occasions. Once, he was behind the counter. And the second time, these photos that, if they're accurate, depict him on the mat with children. Vagner has since said that it was his son, not his son, it was Marcel's son and another relative. But why would you have an alleged perpetrator around any children?
I don't know. That's a good question.
There's also been allegations that Cyborg paid for Marcel's first attorney, allegations which Cyborg has strongly denied. Marcel has since gone through 2 separate attorneys. The first attorney said that, I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but he said that essentially Marcel was doing things that he didn't condone. So it essentially made him impossible it made it impossible for the attorney to work with Marcel. There hasn't been any evidence provided that Cyborg paid for his attorney, except for people have been saying it non-stop.
Wasn't the attorney related to a business that was a main sponsor of Cyborg? Wasn't that the connection people were drawing?
I think it was like Nuvia or it was a business down in Florida. You can't control the actions of other people. I agree. However, with that being said, this thing should have been handled differently from the start. And it is my personal hope that if even the smallest part of this allegation is true regarding fight sports, that the team crumbles to the fucking ground.
Yeah. They don't have any business in Jiu Jitsu. Yeah, Cyborg's really good at Jiu Jitsu. Yeah, Wagner's really good at Jiu Jitsu. I'm fucking tired of reading about sexual assault in Jiu Jitsu. I did the whole fucking research about the Lloyd episode. I'm doing research on this episode. Like, I've had enough of people being fucking scumbags in our sport.
Well, maybe you should take my advice and drop the fucking Lloyd episode. Not to use that as a segue because we're not doing segues, but
you know, I think I might. The Lloyd episode right now, it's on our Patreon and it's on our members area on YouTube. But maybe we'll just fucking double episode. We'll put this one out, and then a few days later I'll put the Lloyd episode out, and we'll just air out all these fucking scumbags and get them fucking out of the sport. People know about Lloyd, but people don't know as much as they think they know about Lloyd, and I'll put that out for everyone else to fucking see too. But doing research for this one, you're like, oh, Marcel, one bad guy at a gym. Oh, guess what? There's fucking more of them. Because I got names written down. So if you're watching the YouTube version, I'm looking over here. I got it written down so I don't fucking mess this up. I'm fired up. Allegedly, 2 other instructors, Anderson Hutchinson, who allegedly slept with a 17-year-old student when he was in his 30s, and Cody Hudson, who was charged with indecency with a child in 2016, and that mugshot is on the screen right now if you're watching the YouTube version. So it seems that it was a culture in this gym of it's just okay if you are a child predator, we'll just let you keep being an instructor for children.
The grooming element here, again, take a deep dive into grooming, but the grooming element here is by far the most disgusting part. With that being said, I want to just kind of close with this. So Michael Sears, friend of yours, friend of mine, friend of the show, he put out a Facebook post about this, and the one thing that he said is you have to be careful for all these guys, or you have to be careful with all these guys who are always out there campaigning for, the respect of, jiu-jitsu. It's all about respect, and it's built on this, be humble, and it's jiu-jitsu, and it's a gentle art, and all these guys. He's like, those are the worst guys. He's like, those are the ones that you have to be careful for, because Cyborg was always like, Gordon's so disrespectful, he doesn't respect jiu-jitsu. I'm trying to think how many sexual assault allegations has Gordon Ryan allegedly covered up. I'm going to think here for a second. So there was that, oh wait, no. And there was the, oh, no. Oh yeah, 0.
Right. And let's not
Fucking
give Gordon
zero.
Gordon a pass. Like, Gordon is still a douche, but I'll take a plain douche versus a douche who covers up sexual assault.
Yeah.
That's an easy trade for me.
Yeah. Gordon's not condoning sexual misconduct. Gordon's not condoning or being a party to or associating with people who engage in grooming of children as sexual fucking predators. So anyway, again, I'm not going to say that these allegations are true, and until they are proven to be true, we'll hold out our opinions. But if they are true, I hope that gym and everything that gym stands for crumbles to the fucking ground.
I have a slightly different opinion. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Fuck Cyborg.
Okay.
Fuck Vagner. Fuck
Okay.
Marcel. Fuck those other 2 losers I mentioned earlier. Allegedly, there seems to be a lot of evidence that all this really happened. And there seems to be a lot of evidence that they covered it up, which is, in my view, I'm not going to say as bad as the crime itself, because that's one of the worst things a human can do, but it's really fucking bad. And down with fight sports. I don't need to see them anymore. I don't care how good their jiu-jitsu is. I hope that this is some of the last times that we have to hear about this type of shit in jiu-jitsu, because I love jiu-jitsu and it's embarrassing to be associated sometimes with, based on actions like this and the people in this sport. So fuck all those guys I just said. That's my opinion. It's not the opinion of the show or Mike Callahan, law enforcement officer. My humble opinion, fuck those guys.
Justin's right. We're not going to say that we hope you enjoyed this episode, but we do hope that you found it informative. If you did, please just give the video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
There's more of us over here. If you want to watch more now, we have a lot of content coming in the next few days, so make sure you stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.